time now for Coming In Hot with Brent Wallace and former Ottawa Senator Jason York.
As we welcome in the general manager and president of hockey operations, Steve Staios, who I don't know if you slept very much last night, but I'm sure you feel much better about today when you wake up and the team's won 2 in a row.
I don't sleep at the best of times, Wally. Yeah, you're right. Proud of the effort for sure last night. I caught what you were saying there, Yorkie, and certainly when you see that type of effort on a back-to-back, and I thought it took us about 10 minutes to get our legs going last night, but when we got skating, it was a full team commitment. So, good weekend for us.
Yes, Steve. I know you've probably done a bunch of hits already today, so I'm going to try and ask you some different questions. You just hit on it there, and when do you think it all changed for this group? Because when I watch them, Steve, their neutral zone play it's night and day. They're blocking way more shots. They're just, I'll use that term, they're digging in more in games now. It's just, when do you think that all changed?
I think it was a process from the beginning. Trying to get the environment right here, building trust with our players. I think Michael's speaks to it all the time, but there's a high level of accountability and we're striving for greatness here, but also we create a culture of caring as well. And I think that was part of the process sort of leading into it and building on that last year. Certainly, the full credit goes to the players. They're putting in the work. But the influence that Travis Green, the coaching staff, has had on this group has been tremendous. And to get that level of commitment, especially on the defensive side, which I thought was where we lacked probably the most last year and leading into it. So there's been a big step up in our defensive play and how organized we are, and the commitment from the players as well. So, I challenged the group on internal growth last year. You just see the potential in these guys. And the decision on Travis Green, there's many decisions why he's our head coach, but certainly the timing of this group and what he can draw out of players. He has a history of being able to get the best out of players. So, but the guys are putting in the work, and right from day one in training camp, they showed up in good shape and, ready for the challenge of the season.
I'd love to follow you for a day and see how patient you are with things like, the coffee's out or something, and see you lose your mind, because you've shown great patience. And I'm curious of that little bit of a bump, I guess, in November. Everybody's like, oh, here they go again. They've lost 5 in a row. Were you at all tempted to go, I got to do something? I mean,
you think about it daily on how you can improve the team, and these the transactions, they take on a life of their own, and what you're looking for across the league. There's so much parity too, Wally, right now that no one's really looking to. They're not sure if they're in or going for it or not. To answer your question, yeah, I mean we're looking at it on a daily basis. Do you feel at certain times? I think this group continues to grow internally for sure. I think we've surrounded them with the right people. We've tested our internal depth for sure. It's, and that's the other thing about going and looking to try and do something. Cole Reinhardt comes up. If I go and do that, he doesn't get that opportunity. We don't see where his game is at and where he's developed through our system in Belleville. Matt and Paolo is the most recent example. Levy Maryline. And so it's hard to have that patience at times because I want to help this group, but until we know what we have coming throughout, and I think it's probably frustrating to our fans at times, but it is part of it. And we need to know what we have first before we start looking at bringing in somebody from the outside, because you never know. The other thing is we know the character of this group. We have them in Belleville, and we continue to develop them, and that system is so important to us that we're going to continue on that path for now.
Matt and Paolo is interesting, Steve. Wally loves him, by the way. He just loves him. That's a great point. Like he gets a chance to play because Zub's out, Docker's out, Hamanek's out. But man, he just plays simple. He closes hard. He's long. Like if you want to get those guys, it just seems you got to develop them yourselves. Like that's the only way.
Yeah, I mean, Nick and Clevin played together last year, and they were a real presence in the American Hockey League. They didn't give me a bad game, especially Clevin. And Nick was still sort of learning the game over here. It was his first year over, and to his credit, when we talk about fitness and getting in shape, at his age, he took a big step over the offseason, and his skating improved as well. He came in a little bit leaner, and he's a big man, and we've been encouraged with what we've seen. He's relatively young defenseman for our league and experience wise, but that's a good example of everybody's looking for a right shot defenseman. That can close and play and defend, and Nick's still developing for sure, but he's showing some promise.
So let's go to Levi Merilainen, because can you admit that you're surprised that he's playing the way he is right now, or were you just we expected this all along?
Well, his great differentiator is his demeanor. Like he really brings a sense of calmness, and for your team, when you see a goaltender swallow up those rebounds and just never get rattled, I think that's one of his big differentiators for sure. I saw Levy play back in junior, so I've seen his progression. But he's the moment's not too big for him, and that's amazing for a young goaltender, where you can come in and calm the waters down. And certainly, it was a long discussion after the Pittsburgh game, right from the coach's room onto the plane, discussing if we would go back to back. The numbers would tell you that it's not a good idea to go back to back, especially with travel, with a goaltender. But we went with our gut and made the decision that Levy would go again, and he didn't disappoint.
The puck seems to control his rebounds really well, Steve. And when it gets hairy out there and you get scrambly, the puck seems to soften when it hits him. Like, for a young guy, it's pretty impressive. I know it's a small sample size, but so far he's been pretty impressive.
Yeah, he really has, and his puck touches as well. I think last night he got out for a couple, and in my mind, he wanted him to move it quick, but he seemed to have great poise and patience with it. So that's another good sign of his confidence.
Yeah, I thought he was going to go. I thought he was thinking of going to go for that one. He took that puck around the back of the net. I'm like, oh, is he going to go for it here? Empty netter. Nope.
I'm not disappointed, or I'm disappointed that Ullmark is hurt, but it allows me not to ask the goalie if there's a goalie question because of Merilainen's play. When Ullmark comes back, do you have a conundrum?
I wouldn't say so. I mean, I was asked yesterday about the goaltending situation and our depth, and if I was pleased with it, and I would say yes, I am. I mean, we have another young developing goaltender in Sogard as well, and I think if you look around the league, most teams, I went to go acquire Linus Ullmark because of who he is, and he's obviously shown when he's healthy and in the net what he can do for our team. And if you don't have somebody like that, you're watching teams sort of platoon the three goaltenders and try and ride the hot hand. So I'm pleased with where we are with our goaltending depth. I mean, it's easy. It's quick to make if our goaltender has a tough night, it's quick to dismiss them. But certainly with Anton, he's a good goaltender. And has he had some nights where he'd want some back for sure, but it's a tough league, and save percentage across the league is down. The skill level and the playmaking ability throughout lineups now, third and fourth lines are going out and making plays. So it's a challenge for the goaltending, but I feel comfortable with where we're at.
What is and I know you've been asked this question about Linus Ullmark in the update. I know you say he's skating. My understanding is he's not skating in gear yet, though. It just makes me think that he's a lot further away than we are hoping on the outside. You have all the info, though.
I don't have a timeline on Linus. I'm encouraged by the progression over the last few days. So we want to make sure that we do this right as well. And the last thing you want is to not follow the process and the rehab and have him not come back healthy or God forbid, have to miss more time. So we're showing great patience with him. He's obviously an important player for our team, so we want to make sure that we do it right.
I don't have any patience, so it's hard on me, Steve. You brought up Thomas Chabot yesterday. You weren't asked to talk about him, and you said how he made a massive step forward. And I thought that was key because we've all in this show, we've always talked about how good a player he is and gets. I think he takes a lot of brunt from players, or sorry, from fans. How do you assess his game and where it's at right now?
Well, I think it's taken a big step forward, and he's a real talent, like a natural talent that can skate and break pucks out, and that's hard to find in our league. And we're lucky to have two of them, three of them, if you include Jensen, on being able to break pucks out. That's a big part of the game. Thomas was challenged with Travis had challenged him. Travis was excited to coach this entire group, but there's a couple of guys that he knew that he could get more out of, and certainly I think I challenged Thomas on rounding out his game, and full credit to him. He's come in and made a commitment to it. The pairing with him and Nick Jensen has been, you make these trades and you have a vision of how it could unfold, and that's why you make them. But that pairing's been terrific for us, and they have some chemistry together. So I think all those factors have led into Thomas's his play moving, in the right direction and rounding out his game.
Are you surprised? I don't know if surprised is the right word, but has Jensen even exceeded what you thought, Steve, of him? Because he's been so good.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes these players make you look good. It goes both ways. I'm not gonna. I'd love to make every decision that I make for the Ottawa Senators. There's a process we follow, and you'd love to bat 1,000, but it's just not going to happen. Certainly, there's other factors that he's brought in a positive way as well, and the way he goes about his business. If you had the chance to watch him in and around the room and in the weight room and the way he conducts himself, I think it was twofold. One is you get a right shot defenseman who can do a lot of different things for your group. Actually, three. The other is the benefit of Thomas Chabot having a stable partner, a veteran guy, and then also what he brings in the leadership. And he's not a vocal guy, but when you watch how he conducts his business, it's impressive.
Breaks me as one of those low maintenance guys. See, we play with those guys. They come to the rink. They're not in the trainer's room all the time. They're not hurt. They do their work, and then people watch those guys, and because just a good pro.
Yeah, he certainly is, and it's the balance as well. I mean, when you look at, I talked a lot about, and when I looked at this group last year, we didn't have the balance, and I'm talking about the forward groups as well, but certainly on the back end, and with Artem being back in and being that stabilizer for Jake and Nick and Thomas together, I think we've been happy. I think there's still room for those guys to grow, and but we've been pleased with their performance.
Can you help me with your cap? Forgive me, because you guys sit currently, according to cap wages, at the top where you've spent $3.6 million, or you're over the cap. How does it keep you from making perhaps decisions going forward of acquiring players, or is it just something that gets sorted out at the end of the year? We've never seen this kind of spending, so I'm totally confused as of right now. Can you sort this out for me?
We have, I guess, just to break it down, we do have some cap space that we've accrued, and we have some flexibility. Last year we were right up against it, as you know, like even for call-ups we were up against it, and having to sort that out through the off season and giving us some flexibility has allowed us to be able to call guys up back and forth and accrue some space as we move forward. But certainly, it's obviously in any transaction, every team, you're looking at that, and you can get. And again, last year was the first step in us getting to a little bit more flexibility, and we'll continue to work on that.
And I know you've been asked this, and I'll try to see if I can phrase it differently, but it ends up being the same question anyway. As the trade deadline approaches, you're fighting for a playoff spot. Does it impact your 5-year plan, if you're trying to make a push right now, if you understand what I'm saying, are you willing to try and push and go all in if it means deviating a bit from the plan?
I think the group will dictate on where we're at, and up until this point in time, they're showing that we're in the mix. I mean, I've never seen this in any year with the amount of teams that are so close, especially on our side. So we'll continue to watch, but certainly I'm looking at trying to improve this team in certain ways, and we have some ideas on how we can do it. Of course, I'm willing to help, and I don't know if deviating from the plan. I think there's ways to be able to do this where we can help without deviating from the plan moving forward.
Fair enough. Last question before. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Yorkie.
I just wanted to ask you on Amadio, Steve. How far away is he from coming back, or do you know that?
Well, he's skating full, and as he was in concussion protocol, he's skating full now and taking some contact. So we hope he's sooner. We hope he's very close. It looks like he's close, but again, we got to make sure, especially with these concussions, that that we don't rush him along.
He's such a smart player. So everyone, you talk about making a trade. It's almost like making a trade without making a trade, because he comes back into your lineup. You've got a guy with cup experience and can play up and down your lineup. I know he doesn't have the points, Steve, but I just think he's such a smart player out there.
Yeah, he does a lot of things that are a little bit undercover, like his wall work, getting to the front of the net, his ability to disrupt on the forecheck. There's a lot of qualities. I know, for him, he wants to produce. I think he can. He's a good shooter. He can make plays. He's not a top offensive player, but certainly I think from a secondary perspective of offense, I think he can provide that for us. You acquire a player, it takes a little bit of time to adjust, but just him in our lineup and the presence and the steadiness that he brings to our group, and those areas and games you saw last night, it was a heavy game, and he can play that style.
Yeah.
Before we let you go, last question. I could ask you questions all day, but I know you got to get going. So, is there anything that you don't have patience for?
No. You got me there. There are some things, but I probably don't want to say.
Driving drivers is a big one for me on the roads. That's
bad drivers, Wally. Bad drivers.
I can't stand bad drivers. Yeah.
Slow drivers in the left lane. Yeah, Wally, I'm with you.
Yeah. That one.
It's always a guy in a pickup truck too. You never notice that guy in a pickup truck and just move over.
Anyway, you're driving steadily, Steve. You've got this ship going in the right direction, so we appreciate you stopping by.
I appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Take care.
See you, Steve.